The Trump administration tonight firing back at Harvard University, rejecting some of the White House's demands on its policies.
By anti-Semitic activists.
Pop singer Katy Perry is officially an astronaut.
Katy!
And very happy to be back on Earth.
This experience is second to being a mom.
Perry, part of an all-female crew aboard billionaire Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin spacecraft, a star-studded trip to the edge of space.
There is a huge problem with free speech, and people are being put in jail for X posts, but they're not being put in jail for looking at child pornography. I mean, it's an extraordinary double standard, two-tier system that we now have.
Ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, pull up a pew, pour yourself a drink, a beer, a wine, a quenchy, parch-fixing, double shot of Advocaat, whatever's your poison, wheel out the Glenfiddich. Is that how you pronounce that? Glenfiddich? Glenfiddich? Whatever the fuck that stuff is. A Malbec, perhaps. A nice bottle of Pinot, whatever's your fancy. And join me for the next, 45 minutes, hour, as we once again try to make sense of the senseless, as we rip, roast, and ridicule what passes for the news and current affairs in this formerly Great Britain. What's going on, guys? How are you all doing? What's the happy haps? There's loads going on in the news at the moment. Don't know how across it you all are. It's Tuesday night at time of recording. Big news story I saw bubbling up across the socials this afternoon. Don't know if you noticed. Liz Truss. Lizzie. Good old Lizzie. Friend of the show. Elizabeth Truss, formerly a Liberal Democrat, pivoted to the Tories and now operates somewhere in that sort of political space between New Bedlam Asylum and the culture war Crayola right of American politics. Absolutely batshit is Lizzie. She's gone off the deep end. But we all know that, don't we? She began her trajectory down the complex, woven roads of insanity, a couple of years ago, I suppose. She trod a path well trodden now by the culture war right, and we've touched on this a couple of times before, about how you get these sort of centre right types who kind of fuck up a bit and pivot. They adopt that sort of conspiracy theory stuff. And I suppose Russell Brand is really a great example of that, because before he was very left-wing, right? At least superficially so. But he found himself in trouble, or at least he had an inkling that he was going to find himself in trouble, and he adopted a conspiracy theory, chemtrails, 5G, pandemic, plandemic kind of sensibility on YouTube. Possibly, arguably, allegedly in preparation for the charges that have now been tabled to him or against him. If you stay left of centre and everybody calls you a rapist, and you are, within that tribe, as it were, then they're probably going to ostracise you from the tribe, disown you, cancel you. But if you have identified as a inhabitant of the conspiracy theory QAnon right ahead of time, then when the police come after you, it's all about the deep state, isn't it? It's all about the Matrix. Then it's all about dark forces. And Liz Truss, Lizzie, is no exception to that. She's also an occupant of that political space. Because, even though she wasn't totally sane ahead, like the other side of the mini budget, she was still fairly tabloid, wasn't she? I think in her Conservative Party conference speech, she was babbling about, like, what the fuck was it that she was babbling about now? I remember, like, John Sopel from the newsagents really took exception to it. Something about, like, you know, left-wing podcast or leftist podcasters in their Islington townhouses. Also, it's really snarky for a Conservative Party leader come Prime Minister to be talking in that way. So she was already a little bit crazy. And then she hit the skids with the mini budget. And, you know, we all know what happened there. My mortgage payments doubled. How did yours fare? How did you get on with that whole trust to fuck, as it was branded? And then she sort of, she attempted to rewrite history, right? She said it wasn't that she was shit, in way over her head, didn't understand even the basics of modern geopolitics and economics. It wasn't that at all. Actually, what it was the deep state. It was the deep state that got her, is what she told Steve Bannon on a later podcast. And at the time, she was railing in the Telegraph about how she was brought down by the left-wing economic establishment. She, the leader of the Conservative Party, was brought down by the establishment. It's so beyond anything. It's beyond satire, isn't it? That you can have the Prime Minister, the British Prime Minister, the leader of the Conservative Party, in the Telegraph, complaining that she was brought down by the establishment. It's only made more ridiculous when you consider that also Boris Johnson, Etonian, Oxford-educated Boris Johnson, also channeled those exact same sensibilities, babbling on about the establishment bringing him down and witch hunts and sham trials and all of that stuff. Anyway, get to the point, Aid. Why is Lizzie back in the news? Elizabeth Truss has said this summer, guys, she's going to be releasing her own, get this, free speech app. Whoa! Yes, Lizzie! Oh, fantastic. Bloody genius commercial route. Like, who was saying a second ago that she had no idea about modern economics? What idiot said that? Who would ever cast such aspersions on such a commercially attuned mind as to enter the social media space with an idea as unique, as original as a free speech social media app is what she's going to market with this summer. Brought to you by Elizabeth Truss, the free speech social media app. I don't know where she got the idea from. Incredible ingenuity showed there. I mean, how will it fare? In all honesty, like all, sarcasm aside, how will it fare against the backdrop of Parler, Truth Social, Facebook, now that they've got rid of all of the fact-checking, X, formerly known as Twitter, which itself has become a sort of, free speech ultra. I mean, like, how will it fare? What is it going to offer to the market that those other apps, of which there are now many, it's like free speech news networks. It's like GB News saying it's the home of free speech. That's where you have to go to, fight oppression, that the establishment are coming down on them, that they rail against cancer. This is the only place you can go to get free speech news and fight back against cancel culture, guys. And then you go over to Talk TV, same thing. Then you go over to Fox, it's the same thing. Then you go to Breitbart, it's the same thing. Then you go to Newsback. Like, all of them are carbon copies of each other in exactly the same way as, when I take the piss out of Dan Wootton or Darren Grimes or Julia Hartley-Brewer or Lawrence Fox or, like, any of them, any of that ilk, any of that harem of Bellandry. All of them, it's the same sell. It's like, you've got to support me. Got to jump on my buy me a coffee or Substack or Patreon or something, because this is the only place where you can hear the truth, uncensored, unshackled. So it's the same product. It's going to be the exact same product as the rest of them, except this one, so far as I can tell, like the only sell that it has that the others don't is that it's a ship that is being steered by Elizabeth Truss. So, I mean, I really don't know what to make of that. I don't understand how anyone would want to buy tickets to board that ship, to work for it. I just don't know. I wish her the best with it. So that was in the news this afternoon, bubbling up over the socials, of which many of them she will now be competing with. What else is going on, guys? What else is smearing its way across your news apps and socials today? Another one I saw, another story was that the former Phones For You CEO, the chief executive of the great British business success story that was Phones For You, they're out of business now. But he says the Tories, for whom he used to be a major donor, the Tories are now a spent force. So says John Caldwell. And there's a little part of me that wants to just be, snarky as fuck about it. Like, I mean, you would know, John. You would know, John Caldwell, when something is a spent force. After Phones For You went out of business. Or maybe it was just a little bit ahead. He was just before his time. Like, if he had started Phones For You about now, with the huge, colossal popularity that is going to come swarming into the phone market once Lizzie's app goes live, I mean, he's really going to be kicking himself. Truly, he is. But anyway, John Caldwell, formerly the head honcho at Phones For You, he's gone on record with Sky News today to describe the Tories as a spent force. The Conservative Party are a spent force, he says. Done. Toast. That's it. Game over. And I don't want to sort of say that, though. I don't want to admit it. I don't want to say that they're definitely, like, personally, I don't want to say that the Conservative Party is, absolutely done and dusted. Mostly because, I mean, I do think that it's true. It probably is true. They probably are, like, kind of on their way out now, circling the drain a little bit. But I don't want to say it. Not because I don't think it's true. Mostly because I'm petrified that if I say it, I might double nut orgasm while I'm recording this podcast. And I don't think anybody wants to hear that. I don't think there's much of a demand for that. You see, you've got to anticipate your consumer activity. Otherwise, you go out of business like John Caldwell. Also in the news, another big story. Just want to quickly touch on it before we go on to our main event this evening, which is Donald Trump's attack on Harvard University. We'll get onto that in a minute. But another big story that landed today was this this Jeff Bezos spaceship thing, which Katy Perry and a bunch of other women got inside a rocket, flew up to space, basically, like, I think just slightly above the atmosphere or something. Basically somewhere where there's less gravity, so they were floating around. And then they came back down. And Katy Perry put a tweet out saying there's no place like home, with a little like Earth emoji next to it, of course. And I think it's supposed to be really inspiring and equality-ish and all of that stuff, but it hasn't really landed to There we go again. You can't crack the same pun twice, Aid. Work harder. Yeah, it hasn't really garnered the same reaction as perhaps some people might have assumed that it would. Like, I'm so here for the snark. Like, this is one from Denise Eder. So she says, there's no place like home, right? And then this lady replies, goes, totally agree, Katie. Nothing screams home like a casual $100 million rocket ride with your billionaire fiance while the rest of us can't afford eggs. So relatable. Home, sweet stratosphere. And this guy, J Max, says, I've been on the toilet longer than you were in space. So there's people mocking her, obviously. But there's also a lot of people like Danny Price on Instagram are calling out how ridiculous it is to celebrate this as some sort of, feminism moment against the backdrop of the Trump administration with whom Jeff Bezos is actually very cozy now. It's like, wow, this is such an incredible achievement for women and for feminism. 7 women? 7 women have gone up into space all together. And meanwhile, in the background, you've got the Trump administration who are actively, literally they're removing the achievements of women from the National Archives. It's like, well done, Katie. Yeah, great. What a huge step forwards for women everywhere. Anyway, speaking of the Trump administration, tonight I wanted to talk about this sort of firefight that's going on between Team Trump and, of course, the American higher education system. Are you ready? Should we get into it? All right. So, Harvard versus Trump, guys, is the rap beef. I don't think any of us ever wanted or needed to see. To be honest with you, because what have you got on both sides? You've got Harvard over here. As an elite tier, $1 million education, college debt, the furtherance of inequality, scholarships dished out based on who your dad was. Then on the other side over here, you've got Donald Trump, who is also elite, also $1 million education behind him, though some would say he should probably ask for some sort of refund on that. Such as Golf Cart Mugabe's association with education, that if you Google Trump and university, you don't so much get a catalogue of his academic career, his academic achievements, papers that he wrote, or anything. Do you know what you get? The first 3 results that you get when you Google Trump and university are actually all to do with his failed Trump-branded college that collapsed under the weight of federal investigations and civil lawsuits. Guys, like having Trump weigh in on what is or is not a suitable provider of higher education. Like that is like having the monetary strategy of the Federal Reserve overseen by the fucking Paul brothers or something. Anyway, so what has happened with Trump and Harvard University? The Trump administration have control of the levers of power over in the United States, obviously, since he won the election end of last year. And basically no Republicans will stand up to him any longer. There's very little pushback on whatever control or authoritarianism Team Trump might want, politically, industrially. And so in fear of that control and the repercussions that might come knocking if you annoy the Trump administration, everyone from Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Zuckerberg and Meta, Warner Brothers, Goldman Sachs, right through to some legal firms that might represent people adversarial to the Trump administration. All of them have harbored concerns that unless they bow down and make deals, appease the Trump administration, work with Grand Pop Tango. They will be, if they are, federally connected, they will be defunded, or if they're not federally connected, if they're, just purely commercial, then they will be regulated out of existence, is the fear. And we've seen what that means in Land of the Free over the last few days, with specifically like around the Amazon kind of arena. Jeff Bezos kissed the ring, didn't he? Almost immediately after the election results. In fact, before it, he refused to publish like an op-ed in support of either candidate, didn't he? But since then, he's nuked the Washington Post's left-leaning editorials, and we saw late last week the comms from the White House that were essentially like a list of books that they wanted to see delisted, unstocked, no longer sold on Amazon. A list of books that were critical of the right wing, of Trump, of the Republican Party, of MAGA. So we've seen all of that, but we've also seen recently US colleges in the firing line because, according to Trump, they are anti-Semitic. Why are they anti-Semitic? Are they hunting down Jews? Are they rounding them up? Putting them all in camps? Segregating? Deporting people based on their ethnic origin? No, they're not. They're not doing that. In fact, it is very much the Trump administration who are engaging in that kind of that sort of behaviour. But no, it's because some of the colleges, the campuses, have seen protests held that are critical of the genocide in Gaza, guys. They're critical of it. They're just not fans of it. They don't want it to happen. But that is the extent of their, quote, anti-Semitism. So the Trump administration are then coming down hard on their own great American universities because they say that they are anti-Semitic, while they themselves ape Hitler. It's where we're at. That's where we're at now, guys. And they're basing this allegation that the colleges are anti-Semitic. They're basing it on the fact that other people don't want their people in Gaza to be ethnically cleansed and racially murdered, again, by somebody else that's not un-Hitlery, is he? Old Benji? Did you need me to read on how insane everything's gotten? You basically got two Hitlers going, why are you all being so anti-Semitic? The whole thing is so backwards world, isn't it? Honestly, I can't keep up. But also because these are institutions where open debate is traditionally encouraged, then that is a problem also, because if there is one thing authoritarians don't like, it is open debate. Because then, when you have open debate, then the conversation is powered by facts and reality, isn't it? It's about who can construct the better argument, the more logical case to win over the crowd on campus or whatever, rather than, fear, lies, bias, and propaganda is what they would rather. They would much, much rather that they had fear, lies, and propaganda rather than open debate. So, against the backdrop of lots and lots of other people and campuses and corporations kissing the ring, Harvard are one of the very few places to have fought back. They were issued with a list of demands by the Trump administration, which we can take a look at. But we're also going to look at their response from Harvard back to the Trump administration. And then quickly, we're going to take a look at the Trump administration's response back to Harvard, and indeed conservative media's response back to Harvard. Because, conservative media, guys, nationalist, Christian, conservative, American media is all about free speech, isn't it? It's all about the First Amendment and your right to say what somebody else might not like. They want to protect that at all costs. So I'm sure they will be, running out to defend Harvard in this regard. So let's get into it. Let's take a wee look. So April the 11th, Department of Education, Team Trump, they send this letter to Harvard President Alan Garber. And basically it says, yes, you get federal funding, as indeed you have for decades, almost a century before. But we are starting to feel a bit concerned that you are feeling a bit entitled to it, is the nuts and bolts of this. And they're saying, it's funding, but comes with responsibilities, comes with conditions, guys. Which, I mean, the idea that anyone needs to take cues on entitlement from silver spoon Nepo baby who threw a January the 6th coup when he got beaten at the ballots and he couldn't tell the result of it. The idea you need to take lessons in entitlement from that guy, not to mention the grab by the pussy and the rape stuff, guys. It's a bit rich. Anyway, basically says to them, we expect you to uphold civil rights, which is also kind of ridiculous, as the Trump administration are detaining people without trial and deporting them against the advice of their own Supreme Court now. That is literally happening now. So, what even are civil rights in America anymore? It says, this is a quote from it, Harvard has in recent years failed to live up to both the intellectual and civil rights conditions that justify federal investment, is what it says. Failed to live up to the intellectual conditions that justify our money. And this is something that we go back to quite a lot on this channel, on the podcast, on the paper reviews. Is this idea that when people put their flags down, when they take a step back from the symbolism, when they're forced, willingly or unwillingly, to actually look at and consider the substance of things, whether that's the benefits, the true actual benefits of being in the European Union, or the necessity of net zero regulations, or the stupidity of tariffs. When they finally drop the symbolism, the flags, the slogans, and they look at the substance of things, invariably, they tend to lean left. It's the honest truth of it. We tend to lean left when we engage with the substance with regards to solutions to any of these problems. Like, to keep the planet inhabitable, you kind of have to go green. You just do. To survive Russia and China, and increasingly the United States, to survive the behavior, the geopolitical conduct of these blocs, you kind of have to rejoin the European Union. You just do. But authoritarians like Trump simply cannot handle that truth, can they? It is politically and by proxy financially damaging to them. And so what is their option? What are they left with? They have to pretend that ideologically, or in this case, intellectually, that academia is biased, don't they? And so that's where you get all of the rhetoric from when they come out saying stuff like, look at all these left-leaning universities, our Romania universities, all these modules and debates and protests are so woke. Anyway, then it says, here are our conditions for future funding. This is a thing dated April the 11th. And it is exactly what you would expect from Trump and his MAGA disciples. They want the removal of critics, anyone that's un-American, the cancellation of DEI policies. They want fewer international students who might harbour un-American attitudes. They want to be an oversight body. They want to have control over these universities, these colleges more. And so you might be thinking, you know, as I read out this list of demands to you, and thinking about how powerless a college campus would be to rise up against the federal government. Like, Harvard don't have a fucking army or anything, do they? So you might be thinking, you know, they're just going to take it, aren't they? They're just going to bow down and kiss that ring. Because it would be so much easier for them to do that. To just go, you know what, fuck him. The protests are annoying anyway. You know, we're trying to raise the next generation of world leaders and STEM researchers here. Like, it's really hard to get anything done with you lot and your bloody banners and your chants going on out there. You would expect them to adopt that mindset, maybe. But no. Harvard have pushed back on a letter dated April the 14th. And they say, essentially, that for almost a century, the federal government have been funding their university, specifically its groundbreaking science, pharmaceutical tech, and mathematics work, some of which will have improved the lives of millions of people and propelled America to the center of those conversations globally. They say, correctly, in my view, that the government's original letter isn't about reducing anti-Semitism or broadening out some intellectual space. It is about policing and auditing student bodies, protest, dissent, reducing critical thought, nuking debate, and they say they refuse to have their First Amendment breached. And they can say or teach or debate how they like. And again, I got a direct quote here for you. It says, no government, regardless of which party is in power, should dictate what universities can teach, whom they can admit and hire, and which areas of study and inquiry they can pursue. Which, if you want to run that through a translator, like, basically they are saying, fuck off, just fuck, just get to fuck, mate. But in a way more, you know, eloquent and well-educated manner, obviously. So, they roundly reject this state overreach, is what it appears to be. This anti-free speech maneuver from supposed free speech ultras. And now I want to take you into how Fox News are handling this. Are you ready? Okay. Let's check in on our old friend Sean Hannity.
Now, earlier today, Harvard announced that it will defy President Trump's order to cut DEI programs and expel pro-Hamas protesters.
Pro-Hamas protesters.
Pro-Hamas protesters.
I mean, this is something that we saw here in the UK quite a bit recently, wasn't it? Not with the Labour government, with the Conservatives who were in power before, was the polarised way that protests are covered journalistically, but more importantly, by politicians. Like when Tommy Robinson, when his whole crew, when the Tommy Robinson Brigade were all up in the cenotaph, pissing in the street, getting kettled by the police for throwing their bottles at them. Nobody in the Conservative Party said shit. The Home Secretary was wordless. Just AWOL. Nowhere to be seen was Suella Braverman. Although, you know what, maybe she had a private personal speeding awareness course or something to be locked away attending. But conversely, the people peacefully protesting for peace in Gaza No pissing in the street. No running all over the cenotaph. Just holding up signs demanding peace in Gaza. Please stop blowing my cousins and siblings who are still over there. Please stop blowing them to pieces. Those guys were portrayed, as they are here, on Fox News.
Pro-Hamas protesters.
Quite childishly, as pro-Hamas protesters. Hate marches. And so on. They're pro-Hamas, is what the Crayola right call End the Genocide protests.
This is not the first time schools like Harvard cited.
Wait, what was that?
This is not the first time schools like.
Is it just me? Like, there's a little whistle in his voice there, isn't there?
This is not the first time schools.
I mean, I'm not in any position to judge with teeth, but I would, go and get it looked at, mate.
Schools.
Like, I'm British. Nobody's expecting me to have great teeth. You're American. You're on Fox News.
Schools like Harvard sided with, a designated terror organization like Hamas. You might recall. Take a look.
At MIT, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate MIT's code of conduct or rules regarding bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
If targeted at individuals, not making public statements.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
Anti-Semitic rhetoric, when it crosses into conduct that amounts to bullying, harassment, intimidation, that is actionable conduct, and we do take action.
So the answer is yes, that calling for the genocide of Jews violates Harvard Code of Conduct, correct?
Again, it depends on the context.
It does not depend on
Okay, so this is interesting. Because what they're saying is if you called for the genocide of Jews, they would, obviously they would look into it, but they would need to know who said it and why, and was it just words, or did it explode and escalate into actual conduct? Like, was there a sort of violent threat to it? And if it was just words, how do you balance that against the First Amendment? The freedom of speech. Was there risk to someone? You could ask yourself, was the person a representative of the school also? Were they invited there to speak by the school, or was it just by a student? Are they actually nothing really to do with the school? Does the school have no authority over this person and what they say? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to consider all of the variables to this. And these people are academics, right? I don't know if you've ever tried having a conversation with academics before, but it basically goes like this. It's like, oh, hey, Mark, do you want a coffee? Oh, well, do I want a cup of coffee? Do I? First we need to define what want itself is, don't we? So we know the question that we're asking. My sense of wanting may be different to yours within the paradigm of wants, needs, and dependencies that you yourself, the asker, has been conditioned by. You're like, forget I fucking asked. Jesus Christ. So, not to sound all, chin strokey about it, but they're academics, right? And what they're trying to be is substantial, contextual, to give a full and useful answer, as you might expect, right? In a congressional hearing is where this is taking place, I assume. I mean, it looks sort of quite high-level government, doesn't it? But as they try to be substantial and to apply context to this and to give this full answer, this bitch is like, forget substance. Why are you bringing substance and context into this?
So the answer is yes.
Again, it depends on the context.
It does not depend on the context.
Like, this isn't a time for cool-headed understanding and measured exchange. This is Congress, is what this is. Just give me the 2-minute Twitter snippet that I got up and out of bed for this morning, then we can all go home. It's what this is. Fuck your context, your substance. I just like single syllable words. That's all I'm here for.
Yes or no?
You know? In fact, you know what? Fuck single syllable words. I'm going to ask you a question. You just replied to me in happy or sad emoji faces. That's all I understand. That's all I need with this.
All right, here with reaction, New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. Would you have gotten the same answer if it had to do with transgender or LGBTQ plus or a race issue? I tend to think not, Congresswoman.
Way, there it is. There it is, the old Fox News switcheroo. One of the Hannity faves, isn't it? I don't know if you're familiar with this. It's a sort of, debate or reactionary technique, isn't it, that they love? Like you take the thing that we're talking about and then you try to wrap it around another community to expose the liberal hypocrisies is what they try to do. This is very, very clever stuff.
Would you have gotten the same answer if it had to do with transgender or LGBTQ plus?
Well, what if somebody called for the annihilation of trans kids or the LGBTQ lobby? Oh, then I suppose it'd be a lot different, wouldn't it? Yeah, you got me. Yeah, but wait, what if it was a Jewish trans kid? Then who would you root for, Sean? Oh, well, now you've gone and confused me, boy. Like, they love to wheel this sort of stuff out. If somebody called for the annihilation of trans kids or lesbians or gays, then I suppose it'd be a bit different, wouldn't it? And whenever they wheel that one out, I'm always like, it's funny you should mention that, Sean Hannity, because people are calling for the cancellation of trans kids. They are attacking trans kids, trying to remove them from existence. And you lot aren't saying shit. Like, fine if you're trying to, drag this lot for not being consistent. If that's what you're trying to do, fine. I get it. I understand the technique, the rhetorical device of it. But if you are doing that, if that is what you're trying to do here, you should continue to do so, but in the knowledge that really what it is doing is it's highlighting your own inconsistency while you do it. They're like, how can you be so laid back about verbal attacks on Jewish people that aren't
Pro-Hamas protesters
even actually really attacks on Jewish people, when if there were real attacks on trans kids, like there actually are by us, well, then you would be really upset. It's like, I guess I get more irate by what I read in the news section than by the fantasy fiction area of the bookshop. You got me. I guess I'm more affected by The Guardian than fucking Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm more pissed off by lies than Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe. I'm guilty as charged, Sean. You got me with this one. You clever bastard.
But President Trump correctly made the correct decision to defund these institutions.
Oh, good. Yeah, okay. That's right.
President Trump made the direct and correct decision to defund to the tune of over $2 billion these higher ed institutions that have fundamentally lost their way. U.S. taxpayer dollars should never be propping up anti-Semitism, and the vast majority of the American people support President Trump and support the work that we are doing in Congress to hold these higher ed institutions accountable.
That is not true. The American public are not behind these initiatives.
Okay, if as a country we want to, help kids get through a local community college that's relatively inexpensive, or maybe a trade school.
Trade school. How many trade school grads do we think Fox News are taking on this September? How many people with a trade school education do we think are going to become Fox News executives, guys?
Why should one taxpayer dollar go to these elite institutions and so-called institutions of education when they have billions and billions and billions of dollars in endowments? Why don't they pay for their own scholarships? Why are they relying on, hardworking carpenters and nurses and
Oh, time for a reboot. He's run out of he's maxed out all of his knowledge of working class people. That's it.
And carpenters and nurses and
hardworking nurses and what was the what was Jesus again? Carpenter, yeah, nurses, carpenters, and there's other people of that ilk.
To pay for somebody's Harvard education.
The vast majority of the American people do not want to prop up these institutions.
Any second now, she's going to come out with you don't need to worry about sending your kids to college. No, don't worry. College isn't even a big deal anymore. Don't worry about college and higher education for your kids. I'm still going to send my kids to higher education. Absolutely. I mean, I don't want them to be vagrants. But you little plebs, you don't need to worry about it.
I myself am a first-generation college graduate. I graduated from Harvard. That's clearly not the achievement. The achievement is maintaining my common sense.
Did I just tell you? Oh, they love it. They want to wind down colleges and higher education, make it prohibitively expensive for the masses, for the great unwashed. And they'll market their own, like it's fine for her to go to Harvard. But when she's talking about it to you while demonizing college institutions, she has to make it sound like, that's not really the achievement, though. The achievement was, keeping my good old American nationalist Christian brain on. Common sense. That's the real achievement. But then it's like, why did you pay them $100,000 to teach you common sense?
Maintaining my common sense.
I'd say that's evidence that you lack common sense. If you allowed Harvard to educate you in common sense and you paid $100,000 for it. In that instance, it is a con. You're right. In that instance, you've been had, love.
My conservatism and my strong values with which I was raised in, and strong moral leadership. There is so much opportunity across this country for the next generation, whether it's in the workforce, whether it's in this manufacturing renaissance that is going to happen under President Donald J. Trump, whether it's community colleges or trade schools, vocational programs. That is a pathway to
look, guys, what can you say about this? This piece on Fox News, I think, speaks to a wider narrative that they continue to weave, which is one of trying to convince regular working class people to not send their kids to college, even though people like this absolutely will send their kids to college. It's a wider piece around keeping the American public uneducated and kind of dumb, so they are more susceptible to MAGA narratives. And we saw that recently in a story that we covered where they were saying, like, they want to make it mandatory that you leave school 2-3 days a week and then go to Bible class. Miss science and maths to go and study your Bible, boy. And I'm not saying you have to be stupid to be religious. I don't think that at all. But what I am saying is that the states over in the US that have lower figures in terms of people being educated, a lower percentage of their populations that go on to get college degrees, those states, almost without exception, tend to vote Republican. They also tend to be less healthy, and they also have a much higher percentage of mass shootings. It's just some stats for you there. So what am I saying here? How do we round this off? I'm saying Trump is trying to attack the higher education sector because he doesn't like truth, he doesn't like open debate, and against all of his slogans and his election campaigning, he really doesn't like freedom of speech. The narratives that we're seeing weaved are not dissimilar to Suella Braverman nonsense that we saw a couple of years ago here in the UK, where anyone that speaks up regarding the plight of people who are being murdered in Gaza is categorized as some sort of anti-Semite. And somewhat parodically, what we are seeing is a Trump administration who happily signed off pardons to free the January the 6th rioters, who haven't just looked the other way when it came to legitimately violent protests, legitimately un-American and violent protests. They've actually, like, supported it. Pardoned these guys. So, yeah, it is beyond parodic now to see them grandstand and take some sort of moral high ground about what is or is not acceptable or American or un-American with regards to, you know, how protests are conducted. That's it for this one, guys. I'm going to have to run. If you're not signed up to the Patreon, do jump onto that. It starts at only £1 a month. Super, super cheap. You get episodes of the podcast 2 days before everybody else. You can jump on the Discord. We've got an in-person meetup on Saturday the 6th of June in London, if you're nearby, or if you could be nearby. But failing that, I'll be back on Friday night with the Friday Night Live show at 7:30 every Friday night. Or I will catch up with you, all of you, every morning on the Alternative Paper Review. So until next time, keep it booge, keep it Benfluencer, and we are out this motherfucker!
Just another video with Adrian Thompson screaming at his phone because no radio wants it on TV stations calling from states to the Bronx and Spain to Wisconsin and back. So it's just another video with Adrian Thompson screaming at his phone because no.
And we know that the anti-Semitism raging on some of the most elite institutions in our country has to be addressed.